Okay, and I will head over to Facebook. I'll mute everyone, but you should be able to unmute yourselves. So all good.
With the update, they actually ask you to all sorts of questions, but you can hear me, right?
Yep, we can hear you. And so you are ready to go.
Okay, I'm going to go 1 minute early today. We are so delighted to have you here for the DADA Weekend Part 2. Yesterday was with Valerie Wasteneau, Philip Mersman, Heidi Hattrey, Jane LaCroix, and Andrew Joron joined us for that as well. And today we have Vic Shirley, Gareth Jenkins, Elise Houcek, Tony Kitt, Andrew Joron, Charles Bernstein, Lloyd Schwartz, and Carla Harryman. And before we commence our show, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Cassandra Atherton, who is an award-winning scholar of prose poetry and professor of writing and literature in Melbourne, Australia. Her most recent books of prose poetry are Pre-Raphaelite, Leftovers, and Fugitive Letters. She is currently writing a book of prose poetry on the atomic bomb with funding from the Australia Council. Cassandra co-wrote Prose Poetry, an introduction, which came out from Princeton U Press, and the Anthology of Australian Prose Poetry. Cassandra's commissioning editor for the wonderful Westerly magazine.
Well, it's no surprise I'm going to read a prose poem. I'm afraid I used all my data up yesterday. So I'm working on a project with a number of people where we've been commissioned to write poems that start with "it must be" and then a year inserted. So, so this is part of that sequence. It must be 2019 because we're in the Hiroshima Prince Hotel and you're standing your toast on its side so it doesn't get soggy with heat. We're late to breakfast, edging in just before 10 o'clock, my hair a wild copper nest. You like your omelets wet with eggy juice, but I prefer miso soup and 3 silver pieces of smoked mackerel. Later, we'll walk through Hiroshima Peace Park, sun warming the wide brim of my hat, and you'll take my hand in silence. After I pour a tomato sauce heart on your plate, you call me your coddled egg and we go back to our room. You straddle me in the blue of the Seto Inland Sea. I roll you onto your side and map the irregular coastline down your spine. And I would like to introduce the intrepid Mark Vincennes. He is an Anglo-Swiss American poet, a fiction writer, translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He has published, believe it or not, over 20 books of poetry, including more recently, Einstein Fledermaus, The Little Book of Earthly Delights, A Brief Conversation with Consciousness, There Might Be a Moon or a Dog in Australia, 39 Wonders and Other Management Issues, just released from Spite and Dival, and The Pearl Diver of Urunmani, forthcoming from White Pine Press, early 2023. An album of music, ambience, and verse, Left Hand Clapping, is forthcoming from Tree Torn Records. Vincennes is also a prolific translator, and he's translated from, this is where the regulars pick up because they know it so well. He has translated from German, Romanian, and French. He's published 11 books of translations, most recently An Audible Blue, Selected Poems 1963 to 2016 by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist, Klaus Matz. And that's just out from White Pine Press. He's currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Vincennes is editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press and publisher of New American Writing. He has lived, join in, all over the world, from Brazil to China to Iceland to India. He was born in Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, but now lives on a farm in rural western Massachusetts, overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, Melville's inspiration for Moby Dick, where there are more, and he changes it every week. And this week we have more rock shrews, common brush-tailed possums, and star-nosed moles than people. Wow, I love a star-nosed mole. It's one of my favorites. Would you read something for us, please? It'd be better if you weren't on mute. Then we could hear your dulcet tones.
Ah, yes, of course. Apologies. This is called In a Word. For your ears, in your exile, in your comfort zone, in which you fly unscathed, unsheathed, into the scarlet reveries, in your scarf and hands, where the hum of time seems like a downpour, or the dizzying heights of mountain crags, the sharp flashes of light that become visible in the no longer already night. Here, in the deep darkening center, in the storm of spring, or the silence in its willow tree, in the serenade on the veranda, or the poplar spires, in the furrows in the silt, do you believe the true believer may be risen from the dead? Hold the fire and the ever-transforming, the endless sky, or the filthy sewage which spews out under the shadows, which they say settles the soul. You will emerge as you do, in all your manifolds, in the siege and in amongst the vagabonds and wayfarers, the heavenly debate in the afterworld, all those among us searching for safety. Here we are heathens, the lamb and temples that rise over the hills. Yesterday has us back among you in the proud fight, where the stained glass was the mirror and shattered our pride. Earn your trust, they say. Weren't we the ones who lifted the dead, who muttered their prayers accordingly, where every motion was a wavering, so estranged we were in the day's end? The words, the word, the faces were etched in their smiles. Take the last sheaf of paper and hold it up to the window. Take the benevolence of any kindred spirit and let it arise. The book ends somewhere. Why not here? And I am now delighted, of course, to introduce Vic Shirley, who's a poet from Bristol, England, now living in Edinburgh. Her chapbook Corpses was published by Sublunary Editions in 2020. Since then, her collection, The Continued Closure of the Blue Door, her book of photo poetry, Disrupted Blue, and other poems on Polaroid from Hesterglock, and her pamphlets, Grotesquerie, and For the Apocalypse, and Poets, The Red Ceilings, have also been published. Her work has appeared in many places, such as Poetry London, The Rialto, Magma, Shearsman, Tentacular, Perverse, Tears in the Fence, and 3 AM magazine. She recently submitted her PhD in dark humor and the surreal in poetry at the University of Birmingham. Vic is an associate editor of Sublunary Editions and co-editor of Surreal Absurd at Mercurius magazine, which I just checked out and looks Mercurius. Vic. Unmute, you need to, there you go.
I'm off. Thank you so much, Mark and Cassandra. Lovely to hear your work as well. And it's just so nice to be part of this international event celebrating DADA. So I'm going to start my timer so I don't go over, because there's going to be quite a tight 10 minutes. I'm going to try not to waffle on too much and just crack on with the pieces which I thought might be fun specifically for this sort of DADA celebration. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read a couple from my kitty ring sequence, which is in Grotesquerie for the Apocalypse. And what they are is they are a mashup of I was very interested in the extremes of cuteness and horror in Japan, and so what I've done is I've mashed up Hello Kitty collected stories with Koji Suzuki's horror novel Ring, and I've done a sequence. I'm going to just dip into that and read some of those, and you can see it's a bit of a wild ride, so brace yourselves. I'm just going to read, I think Seamus COVID's sort of doing the rounds again over here. I've got one called Virus Party. So these are just made entirely from the text and sort of matching up parts of the book and parts of the story, the Hello Kitty stories. So let's do Virus Party. Virus Party. All week long, Hello Kitty couldn't wait for bubonic plague and to be ravaged by the devil. Fifi was coming over for intense pain. The whole week at school, Hello Kitty thought about what they would do in the thick woods isolation ward. Should they drip blood, perform surgeries, dig up remains? Finally, the indiscriminate attack arrived. Hello Kitty woke up early, and with Mimi's help, she picked up all her bones. When they were finished, they were very haunted. What should they do next? Hello Kitty, Fifi and Mimi decided to undulate in a ghastly shaft. Next, Fifi and Mimi helped Hello Kitty mix agonizing shrieks. Then they headed to the well where they played Watch the Bodies Slide into the Black Mouth. After all this fun, everyone was hungry. Mama asked Mimi and Hello Kitty to set the table for disease. Papa joined them right as the gaping wounds were ready. At the table, everyone discussed the murderous intent. What should they have for desperation? Mama suggested virus. Virus? Of course. A virus party was the best idea. At 3 o'clock, Fifi arrived with her infection and deep uncertainty. Hello Kitty got out the rope and darkness, and they all got melancholy. I'm just going to quickly read one more from this. It's a short one. Grudge trip. Hello Kitty enjoyed executions. One day at school, she stabbed a hideous fax machine. When Hello Kitty returned home from school, Mama appeared as a grotesque figure and showed her an aroused demon she'd received in the mail. Hello Kitty had won a night of entwined limbs, some orgasm beers, and a trip to America. She invited her friends to come along. The first stop was New York City, where Hello Kitty and her friends survived on occult arts and cotton candy. Next up was Nantucket, where Hello Kitty admired the cuts and violent heavings. Then Florida, which was full of decay and menace. The next stop was Vermont, where there were enemies and erupting brains. Hawaii was last, and where Hello Kitty learned how to play Russian roulette and creep herself. When Hello Kitty arrived home, she told me, Mama and Mimi, that it was their time to die. So there we go. That's a little mashup there of those two texts. And I'm going to do a poem by, it's another found poem, which is taken from the diaries of Daniel Kalms, the Russian absurdist, who's, to quote Matvei Yankelevich, whose commitment to shush, which is Russian for nonsense, never waned in the bleakest of times. He was writing under Stalin's Great Terror. But I read his diaries, and there was a certain word that popped up quite a lot, and I thought was quite hilarious throughout these diaries. And so what I've done is I've just compiled the poem is just a sort of compilation of the times this word, which the title will now tell you, is mentioned. And the poem is called Operation Blowjob. So Operation Blowjob, and it's from I Am a Phenomenon, Quite Out of the Ordinary, the notebooks, diaries, and letters of Daniel Kalms. 1. The situation is hopeless. I, as an honest man and a friend in pursuit of the honour of a blowjob, unadulterated by any other perversions, am not going out into the hall to get my coat, but I am sitting on my bed and praising myself for my honesty. 2. Lord, I want a blowjob today, but this is the death of love. Oh, Lord, be with us. Do not forget us. My sweet girl Esther was lost to me today. I know that. 3. Nope, either I get a blowjob today or it's all over with Esther. 4. Esther called me. I'll go to her. Esther, I love you. Esther, I want you to give me a blowjob. 5. It's time to put an end to all this. Today, when she comes, I've got to make it clear. If she refuses to give me a blowjob today, then I'm breaking with her for good. If she doesn't come before 4 o'clock, then I'm also going to consider the whole affair finished. God will forgive me and my deeds on this Annunciation Day. 6. Never in her life will Esther take my cock in her mouth. This morning isn't going to be fun. Esther doesn't like my cock in her mouth and she doesn't like depravity, but I do, and therefore I don't need her. She won't even think of sucking my cock herself and doesn't even like it when I lick her pussy. Today, I'll be less happy with her than ever. 7. My wife is still the best, dearer to me than all the others. The company of sluts and extramarital affairs both attracts and repels me. Oh, Lord, help my sweet wife. Oh, Lord, while you're at it, make me a bachelor. Tarot. Dina's got to give me a blowjob. She's mine. She'll give herself to me. It will absolutely happen. 8. Redacted. Dania wants you to give him a blowjob. Okay. So that was that one. So I actually don't think I've got time to do the poem that I wanted to do. So what have we got? 3 minutes. Let's have a look. Yeah, I don't think it's going to do it. So I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to do, let's have a look. Um, 3 minutes. Okay, I'm just going to do a couple. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, you're probably now down to 1.5, actually.
About to what?
No worries, no worries. Just read your poem. It's cool.
Okay. All right. Should I just read the poem?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay. Just tell me to stop if it gets annoying. So it's called Betsy Variations, and I'll just read it. I'll read it quite quick. 1. Starstruck vigilantes gone gooey over Betsy at sunset on the outskirts of town. The Betsy condition, the Betsy adventure, the Betsy Ollie Oxenfree, the Betsy chain letter, the Betsy down under, the Betsy Crimea. Down-mouthed vigilantes on sweaty Lambrettas pursuing their Betsy. Lockjaw vigilantes, morose vigilantes, maroon vigilantes, petite vigilantes, crooning vigilantes, big kahuna vigilantes, blowback vigilantes, crew cut vigilantes, career vigilantes, brokeback vigilantes, gaga vigilantes, stickmen vigilantes, etherized vigilantes spat on by Betsy and drizzle at sundown, crackpot vigilantes with a penchant for needlework going nowhere at twilight, shamefaced vigilantes being shot at by Betsy with black hand-cut goose quills, the Betsy convention, the Betsy collection, the Betsy moreover, the Betsy leg over, the Betsy wall filler, the Betsy long player, the Betsy crime novel, the Betsy in Clover, the Betsy gymkhana, the Betsy pen letter, the Betsy Cruella, the Betsy Manila. Godzilla vigilantes with a Betsy umbrella, Godzuki horse treason. Amstrad vigilantes with a window on Tuesday for Betsy's humdinger. Preyline vigilantes with a dash of chinchilla and Betsy's floor-filling disco hit from 1979. Beached vigilantes, voodoo vigilantes, Houcek vigilantes, Moog vigilantes, Gaelic vigilantes, Rollneck vigilantes, Balding vigilantes, Saint-Tropez vigilantes, Discount vigilantes, Brer Rabbit vigilantes, Stockbald vigilantes, Mohair vigilantes, Sauté vigilantes, Award vigilantes, Preferred vigilantes, Costco vigilantes, Ginsburg vigilantes, Stockport vigilantes, Kool-Aid vigilantes with mixed leaf salad and a Betsy ball game, well-oiled vigilantes with rheumatoid arthritis and a cheese rolling board game, gangrene vigilantes with a part-time pool attendant from Betsy's dad's motel. 2. Betsy falling, Betsy dreaming, her dad's motel before she made it. Betsy laughing, Betsy screaming, Betsy's forte, the way she made it. Betsy's handbag sits alone, no one asks it to dance, no one asks it to promenade. Betsy's scar tissue winks at a stranger and appears disillusioned after a hat trick of whiskies. Betsy's hand-me-down sweater sells for £1 million English pounds. Act 1, the vigilantes are waiting for the right moment. Vigilante 1, you do it. Vigilante 2, no, you do it. Vigilante 3, no, you do it. Vigilantes 1 and 2, no, fuck off, Colin. Colin flees the scene crying. Act 2, Colin in the woods, Colin trying to survive, Colin dreaming of Betsy, Colin as a nomad, Colin as a child, Colin preserved in brine, Colin as a locksmith, Colin with a new life, Colin with a wife who looks just like Betsy, Colin turning jock, Colin running late at night, Colin getting tracked down and run down by those who were once his brothers. Crashing, howling blood, door knocking, the breaking of news, silence. Act 3, a requiem for Colin, a plaque for Colin, a hamster named after Colin, fragments of Colin, revisions of Colin, sketches of Colin, quaaludes of Colin, suppositories of Colin, stabfests of Colin, a Mexican wave in honor of Colin, coasters bearing photos of Colin in leisure wear, a Colin mouse mat distributed to each member of his family, Colin's face spotted in a jacket potato, I'm going to end there. It's a little bit longer, but that's gone over time. We'll leave it there. We're ending the jacket potato. Thank you.
Who doesn't love a jacket potato? Especially with melted cheese and a little sour cream on top.
Indeed. Thank you.
So this is a little something from Georges Houcek from DADA in Paris. And yeah, George was one of those guys hanging around during that time. So this is from the Larousse, which is the French equivalent of a dictionary or thesaurus. DADA, a noun, denomination deliberately devoid of sense, adopted by a school of art and literature appearing around 1917, whose program, purely negative, tends to render extremely arbitrary, if not to suppress completely any relation between thought and expression. The word Dadaism is also a word used. The adjective, the Dada school, the principal representatives of the Dada school were Tristan Tzara, Philippe Sopot, Picabia, Ribemont de Sagenet, Eluard, Breton, and Avagon. Aside from humor and mystification, which is a large part in it, we may consider Dadaism as the extreme limit of the possible divorce between words and meaning. Sense, one of them has said, is not a property of words that is assured. So extract from Larousse, around that period of time. I'm next delighted to introduce to you Andrew Joron, who's a poet, essayist, and speculative fiction writer. His poetry collections include The Absolute Letter from Flood Editions, Trance Archive, new selected poems from City Lights, The Sound Mirror, Fathom, and The Removes. His work of speculative fiction, just out, O0, was just published by Black Square Editions. The Cry at Zero, a selection of his prose poems and critical essays, was published by Counterpath in 2007. From the German, Andrew has translated the literary essays of Marxist utopian philosopher Ernst Bloch, out from Stanford University Press, and The Perpetual Motion Machine by the proto-Dada fantasist Paul Scherbart from Wakefield in 2011. As a musician, Andrew plays with theremin in various experimental and free jazz ensembles. He teaches creative writing at San Francisco State University. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks. Thanks, Mark, for that intro. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about Dada poetry, the various forms that it takes, the cut up, for example, and also the sound poem. There's another form of Dada poetry, and I'm going to read a classic Dada poem for you all that takes the form of erasure. In the spirit of Dada negation, some Dada poets conducted erasures. Cassandra, will I be able to share my screen?
I'll make you a co-host, so
Okay.
you will be able to.
Yeah, I want to show you guys this erasure that the artist, photographer, Man Ray, the American Dadaist and Surrealist, wrote just about 100 years ago. There was a Dada review called 391, and this erasure appeared in it. So this is a Man Ray's erasure. Okay, here we go. You can see his name at the lower right of this is actually a facsimile from the magazine 391, published almost 100 years ago. And that was Man Ray, an erasure poem. I'd like to read a couple other poems of mine. Not this one was not mine except for my vocal rendition of it. But since my poetry depends so much on sound play, I'd also like to share a screen of those poems as well. This one is called The New Explanations. Steal style as a behavior of bad heaven. We, as you, is on a rocket ship, yet risk I and I on a yonder of red earth. A shook system, the man around the woman, the cache of waves over cost. Who, the inhuman, a look, a cycle of lack, or the lore of mirrors mere ether. Explanation, the killer of stone starts talking. The splinters displayed in evidence, inverse of earth, each answer to chime out of time. Utopian hurt, the heart compiled unto polarity, the taste of a tongue unto itself. Leave out all reference, only leave alive. Explanation, the many-eyed beast keeps looking into its own hand to locate the scene of terror, the error being to call, then to capitalize its name. No answer. Tell the die, hail the body to be, no number than number, against the dark durance of its sound. We goes iridescent, word order under, over, world order, all only to object to object, a single rebellious angle, bent nail to hold together the god of hell. Explanation, effect of a posited mind-eye, perched on one, infinite expenditure, else nothing. First fatality, or light exceptional to the shine of night, a social good given for the right wrong answer. You, immune to motion, yet moan yes. A dash, then sure erasure, the rest as sound asunder, know the name of, shown to mind alone in monotone of bone, elemental lament. No, turned inward, one body to be, to whom, human, a holy combustion become mirror reversal. Here, its pose opposing, nights natal versus day undoing day. The first blurred word, the first blared hush. This, the very word of this, heard hard, shared shard. Explanation, to be beyond, needs to be thought, beyond what needs to be. The fiery fall, first iced, then twiced between time. Real answer spliced. Go, oh, the sentience of the sentence, eating its own tail. My guide, hide in human. Last animal, circling back to first person, the eye closing upon its perfect form, bent as if by consent in two. Being the contract signed by an act of contraction. So the social, destroyed, turns astronaut. Explanation to all the uncalled, dome of order, the moral rind of random, if the letter A's parallel lines shall meet, cold, national, ash, post notice, some answer, sun. Okay, and one more for you guys. This one is called Anti-Mate. Anti-mate, animate any or any's nominator, and then a man, and then a many. If I say so, I seesaw, seesaw, toward the untoward, O cloaca of the clock, the nothing doing. After all, the forms of fatality lie wrong, until an untelling ring of my scene, oh ma mère, mere ardor, adore, or red odor. Okay, that's what I have for you today.
Thank you, Andrew. And just briefly, how do you feel that DADA has permeated literature, shall we say, up till today?
Oh yeah, I mean it's the background radiation of all innovative and experimental work. I mean, just look at the way that the cut up poem has infiltrated the work of Burroughs, for example, in the beat movement, or that sound poetry has taken off all through the 20th century, and also erasures. When you think of erasures, you have to think of Ronald Johnson, the poet Ronald Johnson, and his brilliant, his brilliant erasure of Paradise Lost, which is radios. It's a book-length erasure of Paradise Lost. So no, DADA, the moves and strategies of DADA have infiltrated the most cutting-edge work all through the 20th and 21st centuries. And DADA lives. It's the spirit of negation, but also the spirit of creative destruction is alive and well.
Agreed. In many forms. We're going to hear from Tony Kitt now, who lives in Dublin, Ireland. Tony's family hails from County Mayo in the west of Ireland, as well as from Tuscany, Greece, and Poland. He has a background in biology, Celtic studies, and classical music, and has worked as a researcher, a journalist, and a creative writing tutor. His poetry collection, entitled Endurable Infinity, has just been published by Pittsburgh U Press. In 2019, his chapbook, entitled The Magic Flute, an amazing book, by the way, I highly recommend it, was published in Ireland by Survision Books. Another chapbook, Further Through Time, is due from Origami Poetry Project in the US later this month. His new collection, Sky Sailing, is forthcoming from Salmon Poetry in Ireland. He edited the anthology entitled Invasion, Ukrainian Poems and About the War from Survision Books in 2022, and he's performed at many poetry festivals across Europe. Welcome, Tony. You need to unmute, Tony. You're still muted. Oh, there you go.
Am I?
Now you're good. Now you're good.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Oh, good. Well, hello, everybody, and I'd like to thank every one of the hosts, Cassandra and Mark, for having me here. It's a real pleasure. I think I'll just read a few short poems and see how it goes. I'll start off with a poem called Hostilities. It's from my new collection, just published, Endurable Infinity. Those beautiful deadly things, a bomb rain or a bursting night sky mushroom, an imploding mind. If your religion is vandalism, your God is in pieces. Your consciousness, hillock upon hillock. Even your language isn't your language. The empire of dreams macadamizes you with images. The sun is unbuttered bread. Life gets oily under a sunflower. Taste the insatiable kiss of the Java coup. Silencers have a thing for your silence. What do you say to a dynamite ape, to a multi-knifed scarecrow? questions queuing up, satiety, pencil-bodied, an abyss inside the abyss. Well, it sounds like a response to the current war in Ukraine, but it was actually written earlier, kind of foresaw what was going to happen, which I'm not very happy about, to be honest with you. Okay, so the next poem is called In the Garden of Sounds. I kill you by naming you, because people are all breath. If one speaks against autocrats, his autobiography will be kept in a cage. Man is the sum of postures he dreams of. Every vigilante carries a weather vane. Your mutation can be tried in a juvenile court. One who wields an edge may get wedged. An ex-emperor sings Blue Moon backwards as he delivers his apostrophic empire for a post-mortem. This piece is from my next collection, which is supposed to be published next year, 2023. And now coming back to Endurable Infinity, I'll read two more short poems, and I think I'll stop at that. Which one? I'm going to read this one. It's about the German DADA artist, Hanne Höch. And it's called Hanne and DADA Palindromes. A Dadaist says unto a Dadaist, I know you like waving, but you don't have to conduct all the local windmills in one day. This is as exciting as a conversation of lemons or a dream that solidifies into a point of view. More rules not to follow. Mirrorize, horrorize, Catholicize your cat. Next to arise, a mincing mouth, a newspaper ragout. The marriage of crying eyes and imperial wings. Your tongue is an acrobat who jumps into his wound. Fill the ear of the kitchen knife and pacify symmetry into pieces. Construct an enemy. Existence stems from death's shadow. By the way, reading about Hanne Höch, I realized she was a girlfriend of Raoul Hausmann, who once said to her that she would never become a good artist, you know, and she was very upset. And she's, in the end, she became one of the foremost Dadaist artist of her time. So be careful with what you say to your lady friends. And I'll finish with the poem called Stone. Touch things turned to stone. Silhouettes sitting in a circle, their candle eyes. Touch your touch. Silent whirlwinds of essence, droplets of crimson and marine blue, juices of anger, panic and corals. What was mine is now detached. Every name has a body. Sapphire thieves wear fire. Cathedrals enter their minds. Mark the identity blush. Pity never comes back. Grade these granules of havoc. Tetrahedrons of your ages walk into your walk. How it all turns to stone. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. How it does all turn to stone. And next, we're delighted to hear from Carla Harryman, who is an innovator in poetry, prose, and interdisciplinary performance, and the author of 25 books, including Cloud Cantana, A Voice to Perform, 1 opera, 2 plays, Sue in Berlin, and Sue à Berlin, translated by Sabine Himpf, Le Promptu de Anna, translated by Abigail Lang, and Adorno's Noise. Carla presented Occupying Theodore W. Adorno's Music and New Music, a re-performance with pianist Magda Myers at Documenta 13. Open Box, a CD collaboration with the John Raskin Quartet, was released in the Tadzik label in 2011. Her awards include the Foundation of Contemporary Art, New York Opera America Next Stage with Erling World, and Distinguished Faculty and Creative Activity Award from Eastern Michigan University, where she is Professor of English. Carla's recent interview on an early performance of Celia Zukowski and Louis Zukowski's A24 is published in the open source journal Transatlantica and can be found on her website, www.carlaharryman.com. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you. This has just been so great to be here and listen. And I'm now going to introduce the novel into the discussion via William Carlos Williams' The Great American Novel, which is possibly his most Dada-inflected piece of writing. It was published in 1923 in an edition of a few hundred copies, and is now collected in Imaginations. And then after that, I am going to read a rather theatrical prose poem titled Loop that I wrote and was published in 1979 in this magazine. The Great American Novel, The Fog. If there is progress, then there is a novel. I'm just changing the view a bit here. Okay, thanks. If there is a progress, then there is a novel. Without progress, there is nothing. Everything exists from the beginning. I existed in the beginning. I was a slobbering infant. Today, I saw nameless grasses. I tapped the earth with my knuckle. It sounded hollow. It was dry as rubber, eons of drought, no rain for 15 days, no rain. It has never rained. It will never rain. Heat and no wind all day long, better say hot September. The year has progressed up one street, down another. It is still September. Down one street, up another, still September. Yesterday was the 22nd. Today is the 21st. Impossible. Not if it was last year, but then it wouldn't be yesterday. Not if it was last year, but then it wouldn't be yesterday. A year is not as yesterday in his eyes. Besides, last year it rained in the early part of the month. That makes a difference. It rained on the white goldenrod. Today, being misplaced as against last year makes it seem better to have white. Such is progress. Yet if there is to be a novel, one must begin somewhere. Words are not permanent unless the graphite be scraped up and put in a tube or the ink lifted. Words progress into the ground. One must begin with words if one is to write. But what then of smell? What then of the hair on the trees or the golden brown cherries under the black cliffs? What of the weakness of smiles that leaves dimples as much as to say, forgive me, I am slipping into nothing at all. Now I am not what I was when the word was forming to say what I am. I sit so on my bicycle and look at you, grayly dimpling because it is September and I am older than I was. I have nothing to say this minute. I shall never have anything to do unless there is progress, unless you write a novel. But if you take me in your arms, why, the bicycle will fall, and it will not be what it is now, to smile grayly and a dimple. So deep you might fall in and never, never remember to write a word to say goodbye to your cherries. For it is September. Begin with September. To progress from word to word is to suck a nipple. Imagine saying, my dear, I am thirsty. Will you let me have a little milk? This to love at first sight. But who do you think I am? Says white goldenrod. Of course, there is progress. Of course, there are words, but I am thirsty. One might add, yes, but I love you. And besides, I have no milk. Oh, yes, that is right. I forgot that we were speaking of words, yet you cannot deny that to have a novel, one must have milk, not at the beginning, granted, but at the end, at least, yes, yes, at the end, progress from the mere form to the substance. Yes, yes, in other words, milk. Milk is the answer, but how have milk out of white goldenrod? Why, that was what the Indians said. The bosom of the earth sprays up a girl balancing on a bicycle. Rapidly she passes through the first, the second 8 years progress. You note, but September was rainy last year, and how can it ever be dry again unless one go back to the year before that? There are no words. It cannot be any otherwise than as this is built, the bosom of the earth shrinks back, phosphates. Yet to have a novel, oh, catch up a dozen good smelling names and find some reason for a murder. It will do, but can you not see? Can you not taste? Can you not smell? Can you not hear? Can you not touch words? It is words that must progress. Words, white goldenrod. It is words you are made out of. That is why you want what you haven't got. Progress is to get, but how can words get? Let them get drunk. Bah. Words are words, fog of words. The car runs through it. The words take up the smell of the car, petrol, face powder, armpits, food grease in the hair, foul breath, clean music. Words cannot progress. There cannot be a novel. Break the words. Words are indivisible, crystals. One cannot break them. Yes, one can break them. One can make words. Progress? If I make a word, I make myself into a word. Such is progress. I shall make myself into a word. One big word. One big union. Such is progress. It is a novel. I begin small and make myself into a big splurging word. I take life and make it into one big blurb. I begin at my childhood. I begin at the beginning and make one big bah. Loop. Stiff animals. Types often hired out to satire. Displace Egyptian gods. Their miniatures writing on the hands of the decorous. The slender hands tilted back just so and extended resemble svelte creatures just emerged from a wholesome emerald river silt. The river is broad and light, ancient and playful in retrospect. With such, I have no affinity. Forms emerge by disposition, inaccurate moments disturb the otherwise rigid, fomenting doggerel of civic responsibilities. One is caught, speaks through a nerve, registering its own experience. I wish I had the courage to openly detest history. Then who would I speak for? As I look over that panorama of history, the slim volume imbued with poetic colors, sharp oranges peeling from the linoleum of some precocious forgotten family life where something happened to someone once in a dream, repeated a billion times. I see a surface, not reflective, but imagined. Numbers break out into a common ground, and one is left with the notion of a common green placed behind flat forms, figures floating limp in mud on stages built for momentary occasions, ripe with age, fertile with song and music, one exact note following another. Plain facts are alarming. Imagine the potential for alibi. In sum, to have thought and been exposed, surfaces betray my meanings. I need some pictures to look at, artifice to look to. With horror, no activity at sea or in the past, where suddenly terror and serenity, the evil opposites who defeat purpose. At this moment, I stand without shelter or context, obstruct the helm or overlook the desert, resembling a misanthrope as he computes soft squares, mashing distance and time sense into jargon. We are intoxicated by the look of her rising genie-like out of the bombed up city, and the mean old man gloating at his catch is just a piece of her mind. When she kills him, he turns into a light and sensual dust, the plodding way one makes one's home, fascinated first by cameras which placed you in the family near the center, but now spread over the hills, once yellow, now red, then yellow, like lopsided butterflies, to make your hatred of the image absolute in its fabricated aspect. But weight must shift, can be said with pleasure or with concern. I envision a form, its fragile being beckons the attention like a bat out of hell, winged and anchored, marching onto distant shores as if they were familiar ground. I have had ideas gleaned from some vague landscape, some approximation, a makeshift paradise of suitable words that make me shiver with pleasure, want to obliterate myself as a discovery. Such ideas are not the crux of matter, but warped figments compelling me to correct my views and live less richly. The form fills irony with holes. Why tire oneself out? Make me different, and I will make you the same. This is the nature of my lullaby. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. This is the nature of the lullaby, of our lullaby. Next we hear from Gareth Jenkins, whose first poetry book, Recipes for Disaster, won the 2019 Anne Elder Award. His poetry short films have screened at festivals around the world, and he exhibits text-based art and multimedia installations. His research practice explores the work of writers and artists who experience schizophrenia. In 2020, Gareth founded the archive and small press Apothecary Archive, where he publishes all manner of things experimental and creative. And in 2021, he took over one of Australia's largest running poetry publishers, Five Islands Press. For the last 16 years, Gareth has been building the Atomic Book, an online digital archive of the work of Australia's greatest outlier artist, Anthony Mannix. Gareth's next book, The Inclination Compass, will be out in July 2023 with Puncher and Watman. It focuses on the installation called Owen's Waiting, his first immersive audio-visual artwork created in 2004. And Gareth will be reading from this new work right now.
Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for having me today. It's been fantastic. I'll just share my screen. Does that look all right? I've drawn from lots of areas of the book for this reading, and the book has a lot of multimedia aspects to it. So I'll be showing and playing some of those along with the text. Soon I'll write imagine like it is an instruction. And it is an instruction like it is an invitation, and it is one. Happening in your body and in the mind of your body-mind. This something, this somewhere, anywhere, everything, anything is happening the meanings. Your meanings unlike my meanings, but like them too. Imagine an abandoned bunker chamber, the middle of winter, the darkness and the cold. Number, directions and the versions. Remediation. Lifted out of sequence into breath. Flight paths of migration. That dotted line, just a disturbance in the infinite resonance, the order in chance, the baffle of bluebells. Access points and escape hatches into the gun floor, where the burnt book is filming, that great metaphor is waiting, black square void in the dream, 0 point of painting. The broadband high frequency field of time, electromagnetic radiation in the sky, magnetite under the right eye, the winter migration. A silver eye's capacity for magnetoreception reads the inclination compass is leading us into intra-action. Soon I'll write, imagine the full bright moon. Like the moon of my body mind is like the moon of your body mind is like the moon we are imagining in our body minds. Like and unlike the full bright moon. Soon I'll say, listen. We breathe like everyone else who is living breathes, but we see our breath coming out because of the cold and the way the beam of light is beaming across the air we are breathing in the installation. Everything funneling towards and away from that cube of light, like and unlike a visionary surface for the mind. Now the garden and the creek creaking in the green light shining, it will soon be morning. Yesterday you counted 87 birds dead on the beach. Last week you dragged an old wooden railway sleeper down to the sand thinking you were some kind of Christ, kind of toying with the metaphor rather than living it. You carve a large eye at the top of the sleeper to wake it from sleeping. It takes 3 nights. You dig a hole and plant it like it is looking out to sea. On the 4th, you just go down and watch. Dancing teenagers yell out, who performed art on this wood? You don't say anything about the directions. They can't see you. You don't mention the homing machine, the birds, the colors, or the bunker chambers. They go swimming, cold as it is. The pluming flame from the steelworks offers no warmth, lights the underside of clouds like a sunset or an explosion. The next day you find the 87 birds. It's said they lost their way in shifting light waves, a disorientation of the magnetoreceptors in their right eyes. They died of exhaustion on their winter migration, fell right down into the installation. Soon I'll say, imagine, like it is an inclination. Soon I'll say, like it is a compass, and it is one soon, rotating through the spectrum. Flight lines of meaning, searching the geomagnetic field for pathways of migration. Soon I'll say, soon, later, before, after, remember. Imagine the tunnel and the light in the sky. A ring of squat metal struts and a burnt book is filming, lifting pages, wind gusts. The two Owens waiting, painting or rescuing the dead, devising a friendly fire incident like and unlike the still point of an exhaled breath. This is a great metaphor for what is coming, what has been. The transmigration through the tunneled chambers, over the burnt book, blowing its dark tongues, rising and falling towards and away from themselves. Past the gun floor and the shell storm. Up the stairs toward the plotting and casualty area, that perpetually dark earth pit cathedral resonates a sound like and unlike breathing. Soon I'll write, imagine the black square like it is a great metaphor, a portal, an impossible vacuum, a 0-point energy field of 0-point oscillators harmonically oscillating around their equilibrium positions, all the uncertain principles balancing at the 0 point of painting. Your body-mind like and unlike my body-mind escaping into resonance with the equilibrium. Your body to body for the transport, as is mine. At rest, there is no resting. We are empty ovens that can never be filled. It's not entirely our fault, just mostly, just mossy, just slippery down by the creek. Not even our disbelief could fill them, the chambers. You remember those, the darkness and the cold, the sunset or the dancing or the explosion, those dead birds and that kind of Christ. You remember, it took 3 nights. Who is performing art on this world? Soon I'll write, imagine the final subjective death experience like it is a metaphor into the homing machine, like and unlike the inmost of the cause, our last, first, most precious things filling our drawers slide soundlessly in. If we are not the object, we are the instrument. If we are not the instrument, we are the measurement. Soon I'll say, listen, we breathe, imagine, time is very big. Waking from number into breath, a magnosensitive reorientation, electromagnetic flight paths of vibration. Through the garden, the creek creaking, keeping the plane of existence from tipping. That green light shining through the raining suddenly, softly like mist, and the trees are ringing gently. This is not yesterday or tomorrow. This is sometime else. Halfway between no place and no return, we hear the singing, we're singing, you remember, in the chambers being recorded, singing wordlessly, like and unlike some kind of monk might. In the doorway, the Owens exchange their faces, embankment fingers bleeding after the crawling towards us from the creek, the garden, the tunnel, the stairs, they crawl towards room G. Concrete cabin designed to withstand bomb blasts, we huddle, sound waves reverberating our inscapes. All the metaphors are fading, leaving the scent of diesel in the burnt, leaving the Owens and their faces, wearing us out into the dark. That would be that. Thanks.
Thank you, Gareth. I think we're a little numbstruck for the moment, but we shall continue with Elise Houcek, who is a writer and recent graduate of the MFA program at the University of Notre Dame, where she studied creative writing, filmmaking, and installation art. Before graduate school, Elise worked as a preschool teacher and in-home caregiver, with an interest in reformative end-of-life practices, and a producer of immersive theater. She's the author of 2 books of poetry, Tractatus, Spike and Dybel in 2021. And So Neon was the rope, a semi-finalist for the 2021 Tomasz Salmon Prize from Verse, as well as a poetry pamphlet titled The Leaves, out with Creative Writing Department's The Swine series. Elise's writing as a beard or is forthcoming in Apartment, Poetry, No Materialism, New Delta Review Diagram, Prelude, Posit, and other journals. Welcome, Elise.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Mark, for that introduction. And thank you to all the organizers who made this event possible. I'm really grateful to be here. So I thought I would begin by reading a piece by a so-called classic Dadaist, and then I'll move on to reading some of my own work. Okay. All right. The Tyrolean Elephant by Hans Arp. It squeaks, it creaks. Together, the Tyrolean elephant and the rubber grandmother bang on the piano of death. Over and over again they bang, without respite and with a vengeance. They foam at the mouth, they perspire. Their hands transform the piano of death into scrap iron. When at last nothing is left of the piano beneath their hands, they rub on the zillions of time, conduct coronations for flies, and dine on salted infants, phosphorus oranges, and marmalade made out of aircraft. The rubber grandmother smokes a cigar as grand as a grandmother. She utters joyous cries. The rubber grandmother has sex appeal, and when she appeals, the fiendish and fragrant mushroom throws itself with a terrible energy upon the rubber grandmother, whom it licks without respite from top to bottom. Haven't you got anything else there inside your mouth? The pleasure is certainly grand. The grandmother grows even grander. Keep on, fiendish and fragrant mushroom, keep on. Outdo yourself, you terrible, luscious crocodile. The ecstasy certainly is enormous. The Tyrolean elephant is diplomatic. All he says is honk, honk, honk. But since the fiendish and fragrant mushroom refuses to outdo itself, the rubber grandmother flings it like a fly without feet into a lake of foul old oil, all the while squeaking, marmalade, 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 all is marmalade. Only the heavy plop of an expeditionary navy into sugary milk tarnishes the pure nudity of this majestic dance. Okay, now I'll read a couple of my own poems from my pamphlet. I guess if I had to say how these relate to Dada, it would be sound and also cut up, drawing from cut up methods. Pam. P-M-A-O-P-M-L-A-M-O-L, element, element. Pam went, itch won over itch. The heart braid orchestrated the doom. The winsome friend orchestrated the car and bike cameras. There was a fish or a samovar and as many other elements as one could mace. A man who said who's couth and Pam tergiversating as an olfactory building painted all white off-white bleach. Through fur and gates swinging anemic quotes ran breath seduction where believably Pam was the only living moment and had come to the building for the day. A gate swings tiredly open as her gears click P-on-L. Then, clickingness, as birds break down some gloss through gates believably orchestrated, not fine teal, remember, took daily in, she knew some Pleiade, she knew some had forgone the cancer swimming through light and that boisterous ale or bread can cold soothe the will, so she ate some. It was a 4-foot story unbaking, element Pam, and it bit her hair in the noise. Sore smells, store of crepe outfits she'd dreamed once, not the bill or bands to have when time upon tooth to wrap in swells. a great store, greater than all her previous farces, and whiter than those. She had only need end her approach, and she would revive. Formers found gloss on each inch of deet, indifferent count to explanation. Okay, it's called Driving Song. The strictest upbringings, the highways, bare trees. Lima poses to dusting the eyes of the innocent. She spoke as if lost and turned as campfires will. To what inner world the stomach's loosening? Ashes to ashes, karmic berries flop. Thine apothecary mime pin has won, it proves it. The lighter fluid insinuates the culture's music. 4 tarries in the beast of us, a glum release of pennies from the relay races. Again, I am sworn to torn outfits. That jewelry reaches, can if swung tank forfeits. Lawn tan forts, it can also tank. Approaching the subway, I saw a militaristic ad. Code a tiger for spice appreciation, umbilical in its mysteries, and the blind night leaks by human slats. My other man has cried in froth. He was wrong for catfishing my disappearance. When the wilted brand is also the wilted wind, hold your teachers to the cloth where it ramparts. What kind of dropping is an embrace? A purple thong reticulates on a wire fence. Now it is time to bold. She heard of blood in the country she mimicked. Okay, I'll finish with some poems from my other book, Tractatus. It's a little more prosy. Okay. August 28th. Before the plot thickened, before we imagined the mystery of Crinkle Cut as our own creation, he came to us in the shower as a spur, a spontaneous eruption in the water that showered us in its je ne sais quoi, like a citrus-scented bathroom mist, or like a grass catcher dumped off the lawnmower and emptied. I can't remember if it was fruit or emptiness that was the dominant feeling of the meaning, but I do remember how hard we were trying to remember that word's meaning. Crinkle cut, crinkle cut. As soon as you said it, I'll admit, I was afraid. It felt like a part of my brain I had lost the key for. Is this what it is like to have Alzheimer's? I feel like I may never recover. Although I don't fully mind. I don't live in the full of my mind. This new spaciousness, because I can stretch out really far, my long legs like Popeye's girlfriends extending in a lawn chair in the shower, which is where we were. We were talking about Crinkle Bear, Crinkle Smut, who keeps tipping her hat up to the right while moving to the left and kicking her legs. She keeps leaving. No, we say, no, Crinkle Cut, do not leave us. We aren't ready. It's not that she is ready, it's that she just doesn't care. She's like a machine going, though we want her to stay. Then I say, well, you know, we could just Google Crinkle Cut. And that's when I truly understood the crucifixion. Okay, I will close with another piece from Tractatus called Night. Pressing the bulb in the corner of my eye, a bird got caught in a snare, a flare, skittered. Then I lay back down and thought I would never get up again. Then I lay back down into the white of my bed's turf, down through the square of it, the plain, then down again, through the sheets of clouds, the elevation changing, turbulence sans. I would never return to work again. Would that be change, or would it be anti-change, inertia? I preferred to think the latter, to feel dead momentarily, though still fuzzy. Here from my Saturday morning casket, I watched various phenomena of the eye play in front of me like seeds in the air and a giant red bar of light, like scenes in the air, like deconstructed tableau. How do I do that? I recall the people who have used the term, summon, reimagine them in my mind, like ancestors traveling in a great backwards flowing line. Zwalbat, det kunstnost. The act is noble of itself and light enough to sustain some more laps. Is that my name? I do a lap around my seabed backwards and upwards facing, arms outstretched. The names of teachers, mostly, come to me. The names of all my dead teachers. They fall into my open mouth like gently dropping fruit and taste, like cherries. Cherries mixed with cream, so less red than pink. Oh yeah, Zwalbat, det kunstnost. They're trying to teach me something. To unteach? Every time I swallow another one, the scenes I watch in front of me on the bed become more and more meshy, less opaque. But no sooner than I think the word mesh, someone whispers, "You got it," then I'm dead. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. And next we hear from Lloyd Schwartz, who is Poet Laureate of Somerville, Massachusetts. Frederick S. Troy, Professor of English Emeritus at UMass Boston, an arts critic for NPR's Fresh Air and WBUR, and an editor of the Poetry and Prose of Elizabeth Bishop. Lloyd's awards include the Pulitzer Prize for Criticism and the Guggenheim Foundation, NEA, and Academy of American Fellowships in Poetry. His latest collection is Who's on First? New and selected poems from U of Chicago Press. Welcome, Lloyd.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Cassandra. Thank you, everyone, for persisting. And kind of amazing reading. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this. I just want to begin with two of my very favorite lines by Tristan Tzara. One is his absolute faith in every God that is the immediate product of spontaneity. And the other line is, if each man says the opposite, it is because he is right. And I'm going to read two poems. The first is called Lucifer's Labyrinth. And it's, I guess I was just imagining what it would be like if the devil were a poet. So this is Lucifer's Labyrinth. Morning star, that was my name, bringer of light. But since my unfortunate fall, they call me lice fur, life cur, rice flu, and uric elf. If ulcer, if lucre, if cruel, oh, cruel if. Within my name, cruel and cure. Fire, some say the world will end in fire, and some say ice. Relic and rue. What's lying in your name? Anarchist mall, bezel this phobia, brisk entropy, fervid dray, glum as air, lone frat ink bard, retell or blow, sly waltz chord, suck glue oil. Exiled in purgatory, divided against myself, what's left except to accept the contradictions lying in words? Give me a word, I'll tell you what's inside it. Pursuer, usurper. Marital, martial. Gateway, getaway. Editing, dieting ignited. Cinema, anemic. Gunshot, gush not. Hug snot, hung sot, hugs not. Listen, silent. The question is, said Alice, whether you can make words mean so many different things. The question is, said Humpty Dumpty, which is to be master? Caution conceals action and can't. Sermons deliver sores and snores. Victory brings us a city of ivory or a city of rot. Writings twist wits, win twin or tin wings. Sing sin, swig gin, stir or sting, and swing. Sinister minister, ink-drinking twist trickster, tender tinker, risk-taking grifter, cerebral stinker, imposing imposter, arresting resistor, hypothetical hipster, persistent trister, pre-existent exister, insistent insister, replaced my transistor, eclipse my assister, burst my blister, tickle my sister with the blinking inkling of an oncoming twister, assist, exist, insist, persist, resist. Welcome to my labyrinth. Can you follow the thread? Eat earth, eat death, eat head. Dear death, have you read? Have you heard? Teachers cheat cheaters, cheaters teach teachers. Who teaches you? What reaches you? A heart aches. Do you hear? Do you care? What's hiding in this labyrinth, like an asp in a spa, or the rat in art? Someplace, I promise, someplace, you have my word. My word will be lying. My word will be lying. I give you my word. And the second poem and last is called Proverbs from Purgatory. It was deja vu all over again. I know this town like the back of my head. People who live in glass houses are worth two in the bush. One hand scratches the other. A friend in need is worth two in the bush. A bird in the hand makes waste. Life isn't all it's crapped up to be. It's like finding a needle in the eye of the beholder. It's like killing one bird with two stones. My motto in life has always been, get it over with. Two heads are better than none. A rolling stone deserves another. All things wait for those who come. A friend in need deserves another. I'd trust him as long as I could throw him. He smokes like a fish. He's just a chip off the old tooth. I'll have him eating out of my lap. A friend in need opens a can of worms. Too many cooks spoil the child. An ill wind keeps the doctor away. The wolf at the door keeps the doctor away. People who live in glass houses keep the doctor away. A friend in need shouldn't throw stones. A friend in need washes the other. A friend in need keeps the doctor away. A stitch in time is only skin deep. A verbal agreement isn't worth the paper it's written on. A cat may look like a king. Know which side of the bed your butter is on. Nothing is cut and dried in stone. You can eat more flies with honey than with vinegar. Don't let the cat out of the barn. Let's burn that bridge when we get to it. When you come to a fork in the road, take it. Don't cross your chickens before they hatch. Do not read this sign. Throw discretion to the wolves. After the twig is bent, the barn door is locked. After the barn door is locked, you can come in out of the rain. A friend in need locks the barn door. There's no fool like a friend in need. We've passed a lot of water since then. At least we got home in 2 pieces. All's well that ends. It ain't over till it's over. There's always one step further down you can go. It's a milestone hanging around my neck. Include me out. It was deja vu all over again. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Lloyd. It was deja vu all over again. Means it was deja vu, deja vu. Thanks so much today for this wonderful feature for the DADA weekend on Lip Balm. And thank you, Vic, Shirley, for a wonderful reading. Thank you, Andrew, Joron, Tony Kitt, Carla Harryman, Gareth Jenkins, Elise Houcek, and Lloyd Schwartz. Thank you so much. I think DADA will be influencing us for years to come. Personally, I feel that it was the kind of inception of surrealism and, you know, even the postmodern. So it shook the boundaries of everything, and I think that's where it began as a movement. Anyway, there were earlier stabs at it before then, and successful stabs like you know, Jabberwocky, which I think is an amazing poem. Yeah, let me hand the mic over to my co-host Cassandra, and let's see
Do you want me to? I thought maybe we'd play a couple of Bernstein's videos. They're really short. Will I just play 2 of those prior to open mic?
Let's do that. Let's do that.
I'll do it very quickly. So he sent us some videos to play, and they're quite short. So I'll just share my screen and play you a video.
Johnny Cake Hollow. So quollen swackt und Miri flupt, Sardoon to fliegern swarm, or Jimmy Plate, or Garvey Swait, in given jers clerpf, Sheb Booty Bluer, the Daisy Duel, Dun Frupies, Giggles Gly, Judd Krylophane, Jed Jimneys Cack, Enst Erdobel, Fump, Glyer, Eb Hure Blut, Ig Ore Sweet, Nep Nist, Nep Ap, Nep Wan, Schlep Atsum Imba, Outsie Berft, Alapi Ark Av Wards, Ein Ainsley Swish, Ein Ainsley Swoop, Ug Allstep Dolster Flug, Ig Ars Unimbid Schul Begrub, Ig Ubers Querk Ag Blurg. A theory's evolution. The theory of flawed design is not a scientifically proven alternative to evolution. It is based on the everyday life experience that natural selection could not have produced such a catastrophic outcome. Optimists and the religiously inclined will naturally prefer evolution as an explanation, since ascribing design to the state of humanity is almost unbearable. For the rest of us, we must continue to insist that the theory of flawed design be taught cheek and jowl, neck and neck, mano a mano, with Mr. Darwin's speculations. The theory postulates a creator who is mentally impaired either through some genetic defect or because of substance abuse, and is predisposed to believe in and is presupposed to behave in a sociopathic manner. Although some benign, flawed design theorists, as they call themselves, posit the radical alternative, that the creator was distracted or inattentive, and that the flaws are not the result of malevolent will, but incompetence or incapacity.
And the last one. Just taking a second.
Won't you give up this poem to someone who needs it? Remember what I told you about purgatory, limbo, how all that's happening now is just this waiting around till the big cheese makes up her mind about you? She makes you the way you are and then decides if it panned out. For every 10 half-baked cookies, there's a gem. And you know, maybe you're one of those. Then there's that take her name in vain. What do you call them? The religious moralists? She don't much cotton to them. Not when they try to take away a woman's right to choose, or bad-mouth folks almost as queer as she is. Well, everyone makes mistakes. That's what purgatory's for. Sometimes it happens that while you wait, you see what's what. Start accepting that you're in a long queue for God only knows what. And neither of you has any idea what the hell the matter is or what to do about it.
There we go. Am I back?
We're back.
Excellent. So we are moving into a sensational open mic. We have Susan first. We love Susan. We love her dogs. We love everything about her. And she's going to read for us today. Susan, you're up first. I think you're on mute. I just asked you to unmute. Perfect.
Thank you, Cassandra. Here are some words that I wrote in memory of my beloved Ralph. What happened to the Art Deco Harlan Hotel in Miami Beach? As a kid, Ralph often visited the Harlan Hotel. His maternal grandmother, Grandma Anne Bernstein, was the hotel manager. For nearly 7 years, Ralph and I searched online and offline for the location. If it was still standing, we wanted to stay there. The Harlan Hotel Miami Beach is not to be confused with the old Floridian Hotel Harlan in beautiful Lake Helen, where it was the old Harlan Hotel on Miami Beach. Was it torn down, or is it still there under another name? Meyer Kublinski, father of Benjamin Kublinski, later known as Jack Benny, wintered there. Some years ago, I even joined the Jack Benny fan club on Facebook to find out what happened to the Harlan Hotel. The club manager did not know where Jack Benny's father stayed. I contacted the Miami Art Deco Society. I left a message and received no response, nada. Then I Googled and searched the names and words, Meyer Kublinski, Jack Benny, Florida, to find out where Meyer Kublinski stayed in Miami Beach. I read through the virtual encyclopedia, dictionaries, Jack Benny memorabilia, radio show memorabilia, and a few days later went to Widener Library and searched through Benny's more than 7 biographies. I did all this while musing about Ralph as a 6-year-old boy, thinking how much my parents adored Jack Benny on the radio and TV. I thought of the stories Ralph told about the pre-Batista days in Cuba, about the Cuban dissidents who stayed at the Harlan Hotel. There the guests ate dinner, family style, around a long rectangular table. For amusement, the Cuban dissidents skillfully hit spoons, resting on supports, that sailed into the air, right across a long rectangular table. The spoons clinked as they fell into half-full pitchers of water. The Cubans liked Ralph and the Weinstein Markovitz family and invited them to visit Cuba after it was safe for them to return. For their kindness, Ralph and his family were treated famously. Ralph remembered sitting in the president's box overlooking horse races with his family. There must be some way to find the Harlan Hotel. I'll call Miami's Deco Art Society again. If I ever find it, I'll go there. To be continued.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful elegy for Ralph. And I love the way that the hotel linked all of these things together, both personally and historically. Thank you so much, Susan. Patricia is next. We love it when Patricia reads. I believe she's going to read at some point later in the series as well, but we invite her to read her piece for open mic.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cassandra. Thank you, Mark. Fantastic, fantastic reading. Thank you. I'm going to read, thank you, Cindy Hockman, for telling me to submit this DADA poem to Autolifts, number 66. Thank you, Australia. Okay, it's completely DADA. Man's glass tears. Man's glass tears weren't meant for Marcel's bride stripped bare by her bachelors. We knew that Marcel had an affair with LHOOQ and couldn't care less that Hans lost her mustache hat in Marcel's broken fountain. We also forgot that Marcel's bicycle wheel had a nervous breakdown on his premiere promenade 3 weeks ago and suffered from Kurt's prelude to a broken arm. Kurt's 9 malice molds witnessed the accident through Marcel's fresh window. But Sophie's military guards came with swords and did nothing. Kurt asked Ms. 231, Miss Blanche, to stand witness, as well as Otto's, the scat players, who were childhood friends of Kurt. However, they drowned last week in Marcel's glider containing a watermill in neighboring metals. Marcel's bicycle wheel got distressed and hung itself on his bottle rack, and the enigma of Isidore Ducasse lives on. Just ask man for details from Optical Hopes and Illusions. but it's too late. Marcel's the 50cc of Paris air crashed on booze and resides on Otto's Prague Street. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Cindy Kaufman, for your advice.
So great that you were on theme. I love your optical hopes and illusions. That was fantastic. Thank you for being part of the DADA week. Next, we have the shaman in the library himself. John Westick is with us. He's going to give us something great. Over to you, John.
Okay, so Jackson Macklow wrote this computer program that will pull phrases out of Ezra Pound's cantos, and he put it all together into a book. So I figure I would do the same thing with my poetry book, The Shaman in the Library. And what I did is I used the random number feature in Excel to choose page numbers and line numbers and kind of put them together into this poem that I call Shack Low on the Magazine Rack. Comfortable in your umbrage, blitz toward the roast with backflips off the trampoline. My muscles strain to move through viscous air from the FBI between your thighs, forming pincers with cis into a mountain of debt where everything is safe, sure beats working full time. She sat at my paycheck's bedside as well as myriad decisions by silicon surface area detectors and sodium iodide crystals. Even when pricing helium futures, the robot maid's plutonium battery went dead. The one-story house of brick and wood gripes my ass. Pre-existing condition, it's not like I'm going to die. I'm immortal, and this is the last time you'll make a fool out of me. When the downsizing began, I pointed to a homemade poetry pamphlet, great barges plying the ineffable river, cellular awareness in the here and now, in the diet and exercise section. And I have a feature.
Oh my God.
Thanks. I have a feature tomorrow. I'll post some information in the chat for that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
please
everybody.
put it up because I think it's okay with my time zone. So please put it up. And I can do backflips off a trampoline. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Awesome. Cindy, we got to get you before you go to your Reiki class.
It's been a day of rushing from one to another, but I'm going.
It's too popular.
Now I'm the Zoom queen. This was a fantastic reading. I could listen to this stuff all day. I think I'll do another alliterative short prose poem using another letter. Get ready, it's the letter F. It's called the No F-Bomb Poem. Because everyone uses the F-bomb too much. Far be it from me to infest my free verse with the F-bomb, for this is a family-friendly forum, and it would cause a frightful kerfuffle, especially from people of faith. I refuse to use any word that is fraught with fraud or in any other way flawed, because if I want to fly far up there with the highfalutin folk of fantabulous fame and fortune, I fathom I could go a lot further with fine formalisms that foment fidelity, friendliness, fantasy, and fun. And now, this non-fractious, non-frenzied, non-fallacious, non-foul-mouthed, no F-bomb poem is finally finito. Thank you.
Thank you. That was flipping fantastic. Thank you so much, Cindy. Hope we didn't hold you up. All right, you've been waiting to see what Bob is going to come up with after his yesterday's chicken. I don't know what he's going to do because that was just so perfect, but he's coming from his kitchen. He's perfect. And we're ready to hear something, Bob.
Okay, actually, this is also an alliterative poem, very different than Cindy's, and it was it wasn't intentional, unlike hers, which she's intending to do it. This is just a result of the process I was using on the poems that are in my book, The House of Grand Farewells. This is called Shoot, and that's C-H-U-T-E. The euphoria evaporates into the expected and fabulous fantasy of fear and feeding females. Its fiery finger fixes the flames on flat flesh and flutes the fog into forgotten fountains that frame the freshest frontier, fucking the furious future with galaxies of garish gastropods. It gathers gazes for generations and is the germ of the gestures of ghosts and giant gigolos. Its glance glistens with glory and gloves the goat with godhood and goodness, and gradually grants graves to the groggy growlers. Guilt gushes their habits with hair and halos, and hammers the hand that hardens in the hatchway.
Aha, that's so good. That's the best way to finish Lip Balm. Bob, you are amazing. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I love a giant gigolo. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful show. Especially thank you to our features, Vic, Shirley, Andrew, Joron, Charles Bernstein, Tony Kitt, Carla, Harryman, Gareth, Jenkins, Elise, Houcek, and Lloyd, Schwartz. Thank you so much. To celebrate this DADA. And to close off, I'm going to read a little poem from my little book that came out from the Surrealist Press in Ireland, Sir Vision. Le Flaneur in Uneven Years. Stones fell out of the air. It was the 19th century, and the salons were a flurry in chamber quartets, powdered sleeves and curls. The atom had yet to be discovered, and everything was all ether, and the search was for the soul. Immortality seemed less likely, even though you had dragon eggs, an ample supply of magical tincture, and the eyelash of a cyclops. The wildlife was skittish. A halo of snow burned into a perfect crucible. The people from far afield and further away in their fancy wigs and glasses, spilling over with wine shot out into the warm breeze with their horse-drawn carriages. Stones fell out of the air in the 21st century. The bars were crammed full of beer and baseball, ouzo and ossobuco, little canapes with pickled shrimp and crab, brand building time, a blissful shade among the daisies, sipping orange soda, everything at arm's length, along the list for a lost cause. There's Uncle Fortunato locked up in a misdemeanor, Auntie Josephina with her wild nights and wiry hair, and cousin Jacob styling himself as a Comanche chief on Times Square, or cousin Suzella in her eye makeup and stilettos scooping dog shit at creek. What do I know of this? When the mountain spoke to the lake, she spoke in stones. Thank you, everybody. Wonderful, wonderful night. Great readings, amazing show. Don't forget to join us next time, next Saturday, the Peter Michelson Life and Work special. Should be something. A man who is not to be ignored as a poet. Please join us. Lots of love, lots of poetry, and big kisses for tonight. Sleep well. Bye.
Bye, everyone.